Today we're going to talk about an absolute catastrophe for Canada. I'm talking about a $670 billion catastrophe. Because since 2015, Canada has seen $670 billion worth of canceled or suspended natural resources projects. But what if I told you that this loss in investment, jobs, and national wealth was not an accident, but the direct result of the ideology and policies of people like Mark Carney, Stephen Guilbeault, David Elie, and Justin Trudeau? And what if I told you that what we have lost is nothing compared to what we could lose if Canada does not wake up fast? My name is Elie. I've worked in Canadian politics for a decade, and for the last 6 years, I've covered it as a political journalist. And in this video, with 4 simple parts, and with the help of a major player in Canada's oil and gas sector, we will expose how Canada managed to lose $670 billion worth of natural resources project in 10 years. We'll show what this loss has been for the Canadian economy and why the Liberals are responsible for these losses. And be sure to watch this video until the end, because we'll explain why we are now at the most critical moment in Canadian history when it comes to our country's economy and wealth, and how continued inaction and wokeness could cost us in a big way. But before we get started, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you like independent, non-government funded journalism, then please get a YouTube membership or Patreon membership. And now let's get to it. This is Simply Politics. Journalism commentary 1-year anniversary.
I don't believe journalism being funded by the government is the solution.
You have to rebuild the foundation. You have to retell the stories.
Other news that actually matters.
I hence wanted to ask. I think they should answer their questions, especially if they're politically charged. Part 1. The billions lost. Since 2015, the year the Liberals took office, there have been over 30 major natural resources projects that have been cancelled, shelved, or driven away. Major projects include the Northern Gateway Pipeline, worth $7.9 billion, the Energy East Pipeline, worth $15.7 billion, the Pacific Northwest LNG, worth $36 billion, the Énergie Saguenay Project, worth $20 billion, and the Mackenzie Valley Pipeline, a joint venture with partnership with an Aboriginal pipeline group, worth $16.2 billion. These projects alone total $100 billion. $100 billion of lost projects. And when it comes to liquefied natural gas, or LNG for short, Canada has turned away at least 6 countries, losing over $224 billion in proposed LNG development. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, because when you total up all of the canceled or suspended natural resources projects since 2015, which again, I will remind you, was the year the Liberals were elected, an estimate puts the total value of lost projects at $670 billion. To understand this further, I spoke with Robbie Picard. He is the founder of Oil Sands Strong, a grassroots movement of Canadians who have come together to support and protect the oil sands industry.
We internally are our worst enemy. We don't grow our economy for whatever reason. We don't encourage growth. We don't provide these companies the things they need to really expand.
Part 2, how this happened. So how and why did Canada see so many of these projects suspended or cancelled? I decided to ask Robbie Picard that question. And he told me a major cause has been the federal Liberals. Now, to be fair, the Liberal government under Justin Trudeau did step in to save and build the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, which twinned an existing pipeline from Alberta to British Columbia and therefore increased capacity to global markets. And Carney has shown more openness to oil and gas in the last year. The Liberals long pushed a left-wing, partisan environmentalist agenda that critics say has had serious harm on the oil and gas sector.
It was Stephen Guilbeault, the tanker ban on BC coast. We're going to phase out fossil fuels. We're going to replace the oil sands. It was a lot of the rhetoric that was just going on and on, like somehow our oil is dirty. It was talking out of both sides of his mouth. On one hand, he didn't do a pipeline. On the other hand, he basically said he didn't want to support oil and gas. He told both Germany and Japan there was no case for LNG. No one believed that we would be able to grow oil and gas. No one believed that we could expand, that we had a future. There was a time limit. I mean, I'm in Fort McMurray, and even now people feel like there's a time limit on our community, although all evidence points to more oil and gas being needed, more and more investment in it. But for whatever reason, I don't know if Canada has Stockholm Syndrome or if we're just stupid as a country. We don't just say, hey, yeah, we're an oil producer, we're proud of it.
Since they took office in 2015, the Liberals have passed and adopted several policies which critics say have hurt the Canadian energy industry. Among the policies they've adopted, there is Bill C-69, which has been dubbed the No More Pipelines Bill, which changed how major projects are approved by adding more criteria that has resulted in confusion and uncertainty around projects. There is Bill C-48, which has banned large oil tankers from the waters off the north of BC's coast. They sought a federal oil and gas emissions cap that limits total sector emissions. And there's the federal carbon tax, clean fuel regulations, and the Just Transition Framework. What all of these policies have done is send a message to the oil and gas industry that Ottawa wants to phase them out.
We can't shut down the oil sands tomorrow. We need to phase them out.
Now, there were other factors that hurt Canada's oil and gas sector, such as the global oil price collapse and the COVID-19 pandemic, but it would be wrong to pretend that Liberal policies did not play a role.
Part 3. The consequences. The cancellation or suspension of $670 billion worth of natural resources projects since 2015 has not come without some major consequences. According to the think tank Fraser Institute, the Liberals' anti-oil and gas agenda led to a 35% drop in oil and gas investments between 2015 and 2019 alone, along with major job losses. Canada's broader economy has also significantly declined since 2015. For example, back in 2010, only 12 US states had higher median earnings than Alberta, the home of the Canadian oil sands. But come 2022, Alberta, which is Canada's wealthiest province, had lower median earnings than Mississippi, one of the US's poorest states. And Canada has also lost out on a decade of growth. Canada's economy hasn't grown on a per-person basis, with this being dubbed the lost Liberal decade.
Can you imagine if those projects were acting and doing things? We'd be a very powerful country. We'd be an energy superpower. We'd have money to defend ourselves. We'd have money to make sure that we have hospitals and programs.
Now, I'm not saying that oil and gas is the only factor in Canada's economic decline, but pretending that it doesn't matter while our economy struggles, despite us sitting on the third largest oil reserve in the world, would be absurd. Part 4. What happens now? Canada is now at a crossroads because while we have lost $670 billion of oil and gas projects in the last 10 years. We still have a lot of natural resources, and the present moment has a lot of opportunities for growth.
So Canada I'm not sure if it's the fourth or third, but it's either the fourth or third largest proven oil reserve. But we have more. Like we got Saskatchewan, we have potash, we have uranium, we have got endless supplies of natural gas,
But at the same time, the walls are closing in. The return of Donald Trump poses both an opportunity for Canada, but also a threat. It creates an opportunity because it has brought up talks of nation-building projects for Canada, which include natural resources projects. We are seeing signs of willingness to build pipelines, including from Mark Carney, who signed a memorandum of understanding with Alberta and who has pitched restarting the Keystone XL pipeline construction, which was halted by the Democrat Biden administration. And we know that Donald Trump is very much pro-oil and gas and does not buy in whatsoever to the net zero agenda.
I was optimistic. I'll tell you two things that I like about Carney, okay? I liked when he got in, I was terrified because of his book values, and I thought, okay, but he's done a 180. So, he's definitely, you can't trust someone who writes a book against oil and gas and then all of a sudden comes around and says, no, we need oil and gas. But at least he's a business person in that sense, that he's able to pivot, where Trudeau was so stuck on his nonsense that he couldn't pivot.
But there are also serious threats. The first threat comes from within, and it is the ideological obsession with being against pipelines seen with the left-wing NDP government of British Columbia, led by David Elie.
I'm not optimistic about David Elie. I think you're going to need to have a change in the government in BC.
The BC NDP of David Elie and his predecessor John Horgan have arguably been some of the biggest enemies to Canadian oil and gas. And today, Elie continues to reject pipelines, effectively holding the entire country hostage. And here's the thing. Canada cannot be an energy superpower if you have a major province that refuses to participate in the projects. The second threat is external. Currently, the United States is Canada's biggest oil and gas customer. And not only that, Canada has made itself dependent on the US. It is effectively the only customer. But now, Trump's move into Venezuela, home of the world's largest oil reserves, put Canada's energy industry in jeopardy. Trump has been very open with the fact that he wants Venezuelan oil for American consumption.
Great American companies can help rapidly rebuild Venezuela's dilapidated oil industry and bring millions of barrels of oil production to benefit the United States, the people of Venezuela, and the entire world.
If Trump succeeds, and it's not going to be overnight, but already look at the stock prices. All the Canadian oil companies went down yesterday, the American companies went up. They're not going to piss around if they go in there. They're going to pump the oil, they're going to be quick about it.
And if the US gains access to a new supply, Canada will be a big loser. Canada should be making the strongest case to the US right now that it should invest in Canadian oil rather than Venezuelan oil, that it should pursue a $13 trillion deal of a century. I made a video about that, which I also encourage you to watch. And second, how can we pivot to new customers, to new markets in Asia and Europe, if we do not have enough infrastructure, aka pipelines, to support shipping our resources to these new markets? And to put it frank, if the US ditches Canadian oil for Venezuelan oil and we do not have new partners, new customers, we are screwed. But despite all of this, there are still people who believe that Canada should phase out oil and gas. I listed some of them. And the argument that you may wonder, why would they even want to do that? Well, it's an environmental argument. They argue that oil and gas is bad for the environment and that the projected consequences from climate change exceed any profit. I decided to ask Robbie Picard his thoughts on the claim that oil and gas is bad for the environment. Here is what he told me.
I don't believe oil and gas is bad for the environment. I think it's part of nature, and I think in some ways it's actually good for the environment. You can talk about hypothetical problems that are coming. Like, if you listen to Al Gore, we have no snow right now, wouldn't be minus anything. Or you can focus on immediate issues.
My friends, Canada has lost $670 billion worth of natural resources projects since 2015. This is nothing short of a catastrophe. But this catastrophe will only get worse if Canada does not wake up, get serious, ditch the woke nonsense, and pick up shovels to start building projects. We need to create an environment where pipelines and other natural resources projects can be built. Until next time, God bless.